Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. This is a webinar talking about the Master of Teaching program here at Monash Education. We're going to go through what the course offers, what you can expect, and how everything runs this evening. A large part of this evening will be for question and answer sessions, and while we can't give one-on-one answers this evening, just because of the nature of this being a group session, we can offer bigger picture answers to your questions. We always begin with acknowledging the lands on which we speak today and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. And specifically, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people, which are communities of the Kulin Nation and the ongoing custodians of the lands on which Monash University now stands. We pay our respects through our research, our teaching and learning to those Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung elders and their past, present and future communities. So my name is Associate Professor Jo Blannin, and I'm the course leader of the Master of Teaching program here at Monash University. And hopefully that's what you've come to hear about this evening, because that is what we are going to be talking about. So hopefully you're in the right webinar. So this is what we are here to talk to this evening. We're going to talk about what to expect in a Master of Teaching program, what exactly the course includes, how the placement aspect works, because there is a practical placement aspect to the program. We're going to hear from Maya, who is joining us today, who is an alumni of the program. We're going to then talk about entry requirements and how to apply to the program with some nitty-gritty details there for you. And we're going to then hand over to you and talk about Q&A, some questions and answers. And again, we can't give you specifics. We can't tell you in this session, yes, you can get in, no, you can't get in. We can't do that in this kind of open forum, but we can give you contact details to make appointments to talk to someone about that. So please do pay attention and see if we can give you enough information to help you make decisions about your next steps as we go through. So let's begin. So the most important thing to remember in thinking about doing a Master of Teaching program is that this is a qualifying degree. What does that mean? Well, it means that you will be qualified to be able to register as a teacher in Australia. You will be joining a profession. It is qualifies you to teach in schools in Australia, and it is a higher education pathway. So it is not only equipping you with a master's program, a master's qualification, but it actually, with successful completion, allows you to register as a teacher. So our courses are externally accredited by national bodies. In the case of early childhood, a body called ASIQA, and in primary and secondary courses, a body called VIT, the Victorian Institute of Teaching. Those bodies regulate the professions of teaching in those various areas, and they deem that our programs qualify you for registration as graduate teachers. So you must complete the programs that we offer in the order mostly that we offer them, and complete the placement aspects to the satisfaction of the program so that you can then register as a teacher. So it is a profession. It is different to completing other master's degree in that it is not purely academic success that you are achieving. It is also registration that you are working towards. So slightly different than other master's programs. What does it mean to be a teacher? Well, teaching is a very unique, and of course I'm biased, but a very unique, exciting, demanding, interesting, dynamic profession to join. And this is what the most current research kind of tells us about what teaching as a profession is. Most teachers will ask many more questions than they will answer. You will ask up to 400 questions a day and answer about a question a minute. So the older the students you work with, the less questions you answer, but the more questions you might ask. One of the things that usually is interesting to people who aren't teachers yet is that you make a huge amount of decisions on in the moment that changes what you do moment by moment, instant by instant. You make up to 1,500 decisions a day between 8:30 in the morning and 3:30 in the afternoon. And those decisions might be around, well, I was going to teach this thing next. I was going to say this a piece of information in this way to this group of children. However, they haven't grasped it the way I wanted them to. Therefore, I'm going to have to restate that, or I'm going to have to go back a step, or I'm going to have to rethink what I was going to do. Or it might be simply, I can't use that particular terminology. I'm going to have to rethink the way I was going to explain that, or I'm going to have to restructure my phrasing or the entire class or indeed the entire week. So the decision-making part of being a teacher, there is a complexity aspect to teaching. Most schools have around 5 hours per day of teaching, and you as a teacher will plan for 5 hours of teaching and learning each day. The average class size in Australia is about 25 students in every class. That changes a little bit based on age, but that's the average. And teaching, of course, is no longer simply standing up and delivering content. It is not only about, I like maths, therefore I will teach maths. You're teaching children, and you might teach them about maths, but you are teaching children. You are therefore also supporting things like social skills development, helping them work together, develop things like collaboration skills, interpersonal skills, critical thinking skills. You will also be working with teams of other teachers who might be more senior to you or more junior to you. And teaching is increasingly a team activity. It is not an individual activity. You will interact with parents and families, not only of the students that you directly work with, but parents who might be volunteers at the school, families who have children in lots of different year levels across the school. And you will also contribute to school life outside the classroom. So you might work with different committees, you might work with clubs, lunchtime clubs, after school clubs, sports groups, all of those kind of things. So, and that is very much the typical role of a teacher in an Australian school. As part of the course, a part of the program that has been accredited and put together, you will develop a large range of skills through the Master of Teaching program, no matter which specialization or program you enroll in. But communication skills are clearly important because you are communicating content, you're communicating learning to students. So that's obviously very important. But you also have to be able, because of the collaborative nature of teaching in today's schools, you also have to be able to communicate with adults. And so that is a large part of what you do in our courses as well. Data analysis and data literacy is increasingly a large part of what a teacher does. And so that is a big part of our program as well. You will also develop the ability to critique your own learning and your own performance, because teaching is something that you will never be 100% good at every single time. I've been teaching for nearly 30 years, and even yesterday I was talking to my students and I was explaining to them what I would have done differently while teaching yesterday. So we are constantly critiquing our learning, and we are always lifelong learners and trying to improve what we do. We design and evaluate the actual learning that has happened with our students, as well as what we plan and what we create. We are extremely self-reflective, and we are consistently seeking to try and improve what we do each time. So it's not a question of planning a lesson and teaching that same lesson to the same students over and over. We have to evaluate depending on the students and their individual needs. And so all of these concepts we will teach you through the course in the Master of Teaching. How do we do that? Well, there's a number of different approaches we take. And this is where the Master of Teaching in the Faculty of Education is different to other master's programs. For example, if you went and did a master's in the arts faculty or a master's in the law faculty, your learning experience will actually look a little bit different. So most of your learning will be in tutorials. There will be group work, it will be interactive, and there is a high expectation of participation in tutorial groups. So we don't have very many lectures at all. Lectures are not a big part of this program because the way that you learn in the Master of Teaching reflects the way that you will work in a school. And in a school, there are very few lectures that happen. Even in high school, we do not have lectures for 14-year-olds or 18-year-olds, and therefore you need to develop skills of learning and receiving learning and giving learning in other ways. And so you experience that as both a learner and a teacher in our program. So you need to come to this program ready to experience that. You will focus on the practical application of theory. And when I say theory, I mean things like, how do people actually make sense of the world? How does learning happen? How does learning happen from an understanding of something? How do we make sense of a mathematical concept, a historical action, a concept embedded in a literature piece? How does that translate into something that we call learning in someone's brain? And so we take the theory and we apply it to practice. We don't have any exams in our faculty, and there are no exams. Everything is around preparation for teaching. So instead of exams, you will have assessment tasks, and they might be lesson plans, or there are some essays, there are reports, there will be written evaluations, there will be written reflections, there may be units of study that you are asked to prepare, but there will be no exams. Everything we do is in preparation for the classroom. So why study at Monash? Well, we're very proud of our program. And we're very proud that we have been evaluated very highly by our peers nationally and internationally. So we have most recently been ranked #1 in Australia for education teaching, undergraduate and postgraduate, and as #5 in the world. So we offer a range of specializations, and the specializations here are what we refer to is you can either learn to be an early childhood teacher, a primary teacher, or a secondary teacher. And we'll look at those in a moment. But we offer a wide range of those and a mixture of those. So you can come out with qualifications across several of those, which is not what's on offer in other places. Every semester that you're with us across the 2-year master's program, you have professional experience, which we organize for you. You don't have to organize that yourself. The job outlook with education is particularly strong, and in Victoria, there is a very good starting salary. There is a strong focus at Monash Education on student support and well-being, where we have specific staff put in place to support you academically and for your well-being as well. So we'll talk about those as we go through, but that is something that's not offered in at every institution. For those thinking about how do I move from the course into the profession, Within 4 months of completing the program, we know that over 93% of our graduates have found employment. And we know that in talking to our students as they graduate, pretty much that's every student that wanted to find employment. Not all of our students choose to go straight into the classroom. Some of them choose to take their Master of Teaching degree and go overseas. Some choose to go work part-time. Some choose to go into further study. So we know that pretty much everyone who wants to go into the classroom has found employment. And as you can see, 85% of our graduates found full-time employment. So there is some flexibility around the type of employment that our students are finding as well, which I think is really interesting as well. So there's some flexibility, and the job market is at the moment quite open to finding that right place for you with the degree that you're taking from Monash, which is well regarded in the market. The average salary, not the starting salary, but the average salary for a school teacher in Victoria currently, and this is from the Department of Education. You can look these up online. If you Google teacher salaries Victoria, they are publicly available. The average salary is around $100,000, and it can go up to about $129,000. The top salary there, you can become a leading teacher. This is the top of the teaching scale. After that becomes the school leadership scale. So there are progression areas beyond that, of course, if you wanted to get into school leadership, principal kind of class things. So we know that there's demand for our graduates, and we know that there are places for our graduates as they finish the programs as well. So just some kind of fast facts to get you going. Our programs are all held on campus. They are held at our campus at Clayton. We do not offer online programs for the Master of Teaching at the moment. So the enrollment that you're looking at probably for next year, that will be an on-campus enrollment. It is a full-time program. Now, because of that external registration accreditation that I mentioned earlier, these programs have to include a large amount of content in order to enable you to be registered as a teacher when you have finished the program. The program is quite intensive, so they are busy programs. That is not something that you can kind of fit in on a Saturday you have to come to class, I guess is one way to say it. And you can't, there are points at which you will need to go out to placement. So it is 2 years full time. If you're taking a secondary education course, there is the option to take a 1.5 year program, so an 18 months program. What that means is instead of taking the final fourth semester, you do that semester over summer instead. So you condense everything into 18 months. It is full time during the day, like a work week kind of approach. These are the courses that we offer. So you can see, depending on the age of students that you would like to teach, you enroll in the specialization that is relevant. So if you're not sure, we have some combined, or if you'd like some flexibility. So if you'd like to teach from 0 to 12-year-olds, you might consider an early childhood and primary degree. Or if you're not sure if you'd like to teach primary or secondary, you can enroll in the primary and secondary education degree. Those are all of the options that we offer. Okay. If you are thinking of becoming a secondary school teacher and enrolling in the secondary education program, the bottom one on this list here, you will need to have 2 specialist teaching areas. Now, these specialist teaching areas can only be taken from your undergraduate degree. Okay, this is part of your qualifying to enroll in the Master of Teaching program. This is where we get the most questions during this session online. So you will be assessed for your specialist teaching areas when you submit your transcripts in your application. Okay, and you will, so for example, if you have a law degree, you will submit your transcripts. You have to have a certain number of credit points across a certain number of years in your undergraduate, and then that will be evaluated, and they'll say, okay, you're qualified to teach this teaching area and this teaching area. Okay, so if you have a background in science, but you now want to be an art teacher, if you don't have an undergraduate degree in arts, unfortunately, you can't be an arts teacher. You have to have an undergraduate degree in that area. Okay, this is the list of the teaching areas which we offer here at Monash. This is the biggest list of teaching areas that any university offers in the country. So if it's not on this list, it's going to be difficult for you to find it elsewhere. The combination, okay, you might find the same ones elsewhere, but not the combination. Okay. So what I'd like to do now, we're going to come back to these because there's often a lot of questions about the specialist teaching areas. We are going to come back to that, but I'm going to hand over to Michelle Leonard now. Are you there, Michelle?
Thanks, Joe. I am, yes.
Lovely. You just tell me when you'd like me to flick to the next slide, but I'll let you talk a little bit about placements.
Fabulous. So, thank you. It's lovely to be here tonight. I am the professional practice consultant manager, and I work in a wonderful team with a team of teachers across the early childhood, primary, and secondary sectors. And we are here to guide and support you pre, during, and post placement, where the rubber hits the road, really. That's when all the theory that you've learned is you have that opportunity to put it into practice. Thanks, Joe. You can flip over. So we have in the Master of Teaching, you have 4 placements, one at the start of the year, one towards the end of the year, and the same in the second year, 60 days all up. And there are a range of placement opportunities for you to hold on to and think about. So we have international placements in Italy, China, and Switzerland. And in all of these, I must add, you are guided by a PPC, a professional practice consultant rep, who will go with you and be that extra layer of support. Of course, on your placements, you are allocated a mentor who is like the person who you spend most time with, who will guide you through your placement and help you meet those expectations. We also have some urban clusters of placements plus opportunities, which are wonderful. And the Southeast Growth Corridor, where we cover trauma-informed practices. This is a big bugbear of pre-service teachers, is the behaviour management. But what we do is we equip you with some tips and tricks prior to going on placement so that you succeed and you're in that classroom and you're feeling confident about getting through and managing the whole scope. As Joe said, it's a huge teaching is one of those wonderful things where every part of your brain, I think, would be used in 1 hour, no doubt. And we also have specialist schools opportunities, which came into play last year, and it's a wonderful opportunity. I mean, it's been across Monash for many years, but we've really honed in on and built great partners with specialist schools across Victoria. So if you would like to harness that opportunity, that is there for the taking as well. We have some great rural opportunities where you spend the duration of your placement in a rural town that's they're very warm and welcoming, these rural towns across Bass Coast, South Gippsland, Bairnsdale, and Swan Hill. So you live with your peers, your PSTs, in the house, and you go off to placement every day and immerse yourself in that wonderful community. We also have financial support available to you while you're on placement, because we do know that placement poverty is a real thing. So there is financial support whilst you take time out of your busy lives to undergo your placement. there are many opportunities available. And as I said, we are available. We come and visit you. We offer coaching as well prior to going out. And we offer pre-placement workshops to gear you up prior to you walking into that school for the very first time. But we are that extra layer of support for you. We walk and talk teaching because we've all been there before. And we want to help you succeed because placements can sometimes be that daunting experience. But with us, we try and make it as easy as possible. Thanks, Joe.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. That's great. And I was talking to some students in my class just yesterday, who did one of the international placements, and they were just raving about it. It's one of the really exciting things that is really on offer, and they just absolutely love it. And even though it's not an Australian classroom, they were talking about the transferability of what they've learned because it's a really intensive space. But what they loved about it was that because they're away from home, they've got this intensive kind of mentoring space with their peers. They were with their friends. They didn't know them before they went, but they became their friends, and they're actually debriefing every night because they're away, and they're just fully immersed in that overseas experience on placement and just really learning what it means to be a teacher, and unpacking it all day, every day, which was really exciting. Looking at their photos too, it was just stunning.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It is just friends for life, they say. If you do a rural or an international placement, you'll be friends for life. So that's just heartwarming and wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes me want to go. Probably can't go, but that's okay. Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. And Michelle's going to hang around, so if we have questions towards the end of the session, we can direct them to Michelle. What I'd like to do now is hand over to Maya Kawashima, who is one of our fabulous alumnus, I should say. Alumni is the plural, isn't it? I always get that wrong. So Maya, if you're there, Maya actually came to one of these sessions a couple of years ago and is now a much experienced teacher, very highly regarded in her field and doing a fabulous job in schools. So she's very kindly agreed to come along tonight and talk about her experience in the program and her experience since, because it's all well and good to hear from us in the program, but we always think that those of you thinking about a teaching career would like to hear from someone who's actually been through it, and hear about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'll hand over to you, Maya, and tell us the truth. Tell us what you think.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you very much for your time, Joe, and thank you, Michelle, for this opportunity. So good evening, everyone. My name is Mai Kawashima, and I am a proud Monash University alumna. I studied my Master of Teaching in Secondary Education at the Clayton campus between the years of 2016 and 2017, and my teaching methods are French and English as an additional language. Bit of a background about myself. Before I became a teacher, I was employed in the corporate sector. I worked in sales and marketing and finance department for a period of 5 years. And even though it was a valuable experience, I've always wanted to be a teacher. So in 2012, I left my corporate profession and studied my graduate diploma in French. And in 2016, studied my Master of Teaching at Monash. So what attracted to me about Monash is its world-class education. That the fact that Monash achieved #1 in education ranking in Australia and 5th in the world speaks volumes about both my experience and its course. What I liked about Monash is the partnership that the education department has with many schools, and also how approachable and engaging the lecturers and the tutors were. So again, the course at Monash I found encompassed a combination of theory and practice, including engaging in the latest research and on contemporary teaching. I remember fondly of the courses that I studied at Monash, especially on inclusive education. And in one unit, we looked at the unit of Universal Design of Learning, or UDL for short. Basically, UDL is based on developing a flexible learning environment where information is presented in multiple ways to students so that it is accessible to everyone, irrespective of needs, abilities, or learning requirements. As such, differentiation is key. And as what Joe said, yes, there are many demands and expectations on teachers placed upon teaching all students of all abilities, and the fact that Monash did really well in covering these aspects, I felt prepared me well for teaching. Over the last 8 years, I have taught in 2 schools. So once I finished my Master of Teaching at Monash, I gained employment at Woodley School, which is an independent holistic school in the Mornington Peninsula. And I was there for 5 years. At Woodley, I taught French and VC Business Management. And after 5 years, I enjoyed my time. I felt that it was time for a change. So now I am at Wesley School at the St Kilda Road campus, where I teach middle school. So moving from senior school to middle school, where I teach currently years 5 to 9 students in French. I'm also a year 9 tutor, which is a pastoral role, marking roles, and keeping the students engaged. And yes, Joe, you mentioned about co-curricular. Wesley is big on co-curricular. And so as such, I'm the debating and public speaking coordinator for our campus. What I love about teaching and teaching French overall is instilling a genuine love of languages in my students. For me, it is such a pleasure watching the students develop both a sense of competency and mastering the language, and also appreciating that it is a multilingual world. So learning another language, really upskills the students and preparing them for the world at large. Some of you may be aware that Wesley College is an international baccalaureate school where languages are highly valued. So yes, teaching is a very team-based profession, Joe. I 100% agree with you on that. My colleagues and I regularly create engaging, immersive learning environment for our students. And in our lessons, we incorporate songs, interactive games, cultural activities, dance and excursions, all designed to bring the French language and culture to life. And yes, I totally agree. Teaching is no longer where you stand in the class and just deliver content. It's about reading the room. Every class is different, and tailoring your lessons so that everyone learns and thrives. I engage closely with my colleagues in the French department to, where we continually reflect and refine our teaching practices. As such, every term we come together to develop booklets and assessments. And being an IB school, we cross-mark each other's work to make sure that we are consistent. And yes, from my experience, the most effective and inspiring teachers are those who continually refine their craft and reflect upon their practice, which I'm proud to say that our department does very well at this. And yes, using technology is a big part of teaching. This includes using programs such as Education Perfect, Blookit, Quizlet Live, and other online verified resources to facilitate the students' learning. And it always helps to be at the forefront of technology, as our students in general are very tech savvy and are always teaching you how to be more proficient in using, say, Canva, for example. So how I keep refining my own teaching practice, in addition to working closely with my colleagues, I actively participate in professional learning opportunities. In May this year, I was lucky enough to attend a workshop led by the highly esteemed language guru by the name of Gianfranco Conti. So in his workshop, Mr. Conti again spoke about ways to make language relevant, meaningful, and impactful. And the key thing is to work on the student's motivation. In addition to Mr. Conti's strategies, I also like the teaching strategies of Dr. Liam Printer. He also speaks about the importance of instilling motivation in your students and instilling techniques such as the storytelling, which I will get onto just in a second. So in terms of storytelling, my esteemed colleague Alison and I are currently creating lesson plans for our years 5 and 7 students in French, where we actually co-create a story in the target language with our students based on the content that we're teaching. In year 7, Alison is teaching school subjects, and in year 5, I'm teaching about close. So actually co-creating a story based on the content that we're teaching actually helps the students feel involved in the process and more engaged. As such, motivation is the key. As I mentioned, the teaching profession has evolved significantly since I was at school, and there is now a strong emphasis on student-centered learning. Something as simple as learning the students' names, their interests, and referring to that, when you're in the class makes a big difference. Students feel seen and heard when that happens. And also lessons that begin with a strong hook can create instant engagement and make learning both relevant and meaningful. Now, why I chose Monash? Well, I chose Monash because of its outstanding reputation and flexibility. I began my Master of Teaching as a mature age student, and I was raising my 1-year-old son at the time. So I was looking for a course that was both rigorous and respected, yet adaptive to my personal circumstances. And the Master of Teaching at Monash exceeded my expectations in that regard. As mentioned, the lecturers and tutors at Monash were extremely supportive, and yes, many of them came from teaching backgrounds and understood the challenges that we would be facing in the classrooms. They were very generous with their time and expertise, and I will always remember that. In terms of my placements, I was fortunate to teach across various government, independent, and Catholic schools. I taught subjects from Japanese to English as an additional language, business management, and French. These placements were absolutely critical in helping me to develop my confidence and skills by working alongside experienced mentors. I wholeheartedly recommend the Master of Teaching at Monash. It is a high quality, forward-thinking course taught by some of the best educators in the field. And my suggestion is, once you begin your journey with Master of Teaching, make the most of your learning opportunity. This includes continuing to build rapport with your lecturers, tutors, mentors, and peers, making the most of the placement opportunities, and most importantly, to keep learning. Because in teaching, the learning never stops, it continues. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maya. That's really, really helpful and such an insight into kind of your journey. And I'm just really excited to hear how you've kind of taken on board everything that you learned and are still learning. I just love hearing all of that. That's wonderful. And congratulations on such a successful career too. That's exciting. And when I taught secondary, I taught French as well. So I always love hearing about all of your teaching too. Thank you. We're getting lots of questions popping up. Feel free to keep putting them in. There are a few of our wonderful placements team answering some of those in the background, but we will get to the formal questions part of the session. I've got a few more slides to go through and then we will head over to that. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about entry requirements because there are a few questions coming from that. So let's go through that. It may answer some of your questions. So how do you apply? This is kind of the nitty gritty. So this is for all specializations. So whether you want to apply for early childhood, primary, secondary, or any of the combinations, this is for all of those. So you need an Australian undergraduate degree or equivalent. Okay, so that means an international degree with at least a credit average. So that's 60%. Credit average is 60%. So you need that undergraduate degree. And the reason is in the master's program, we don't teach you the content, we teach you how to teach. And this is something that you really have to kind of get your head around. For example, if you want to become an English teacher, we don't teach you English literature. We teach you how to teach English literature. If you want to be a maths teacher, we don't teach you maths. We teach you how to teach maths. Okay. If you were to do the bachelor's program, the 4-year bachelor's program, we would teach you both the content, the maths, and how to teach maths across 4 years. Okay. But in the master's program, we're just teaching you the pedagogy, the how to teach. So that's why you come in with your undergraduate degree, that gives you the content, and then the 2-year master's gives you the how do you teach. and we add that onto your existing content. So that's why your undergraduate degree is so important. You do need your IELTS or equivalent. And there will be a link you will be able to go to. I'll put that up shortly. And you will need to have evidence of passing those if you have a non-English speaking background or non-English speaking education. That is for your undergraduate degree if it's non-English background. So those are the IELTS scores that you need. As part of the application for a teaching degree, not only is it based on your academic skills, but you also have to pass a situational judgment test. And the reason for this is that not everybody has the right personality approach to be a teacher. I'm sure you've all had teachers in your schooling that you thought, man, do they ought to be really be a teacher? Should they really be hanging around doing this teaching? They don't seem to be really enjoying it. And so one of the reasons that we have this is that the federal government has said, we really should try and understand what kind of person makes the best kind of teacher. And so that's what the situational judgment test does. There are some specific requirements if you are looking at certain specializations. So if you are looking at early childhood and primary, so this really relates to the primary school teaching. So if you want to be a primary school teacher, either in the primary course or the early childhood primary, so anything that has primary in it, you have to have at least 1 year full-time equivalent study in your undergraduate. This is relevant to your undergraduate that you're coming with. You have to have one or more learning areas relevant to the primary school curriculum. Now, pretty much every degree is relevant to this in some way. Okay, occasionally we get a degree that doesn't, but it's very rare. So if your undergraduate degree is in computing, well, the Australian primary school curriculum has a digital technologies component. Okay, there's the connection. If you have a law degree as your undergraduate, well, we have a civics and citizenship component to the Australian primary school curriculum. That's probably the connection. You can Google all this, right? If you Google Australian primary school curriculum, you can look up the learning areas and you can probably see where your undergraduate degree connects. But this will be evaluated when you make your application, when you submit, okay? Most degrees meet the primary education specialisation, most of them. The slightly more complex entry requirement are the primary and secondary and the secondary education specialisation. As we looked at before, if you're doing a straight secondary master's degree, you need to have 2 teaching areas. You have to have at least a major study and then a minor. A lot of people have 2 majors, but you need at least 1 major. That means a certain number of credits in an area. So if you've got a computing degree, the team will look at your credits on your transcript from your undergraduate, and they will look at how many credits you've got at each year level, and they will say you've got enough credits at year 1, year 2, year 3 in your bachelor that count as enough content area to qualify you to teach secondary school. Okay. Now it's not easy for us to say yes, no tonight on this call. We can't do that because every degree around the world calls their classes, their courses, their subjects slightly different things. So when we evaluate them, we have to go off and read about the courses that you've taken. Okay, so we can't answer that on the call tonight. If you are doing a primary and secondary education specialisation, you still complete that course in 2 years, but you have to meet both the criteria for the primary specialisation and the secondary. So you actually only have to have 1 secondary teaching area and also 1 year of full-time study for the primary school curriculum. So it's kind of the primary one and the secondary one. So you only need 1 area. Okay, so if you had done a computing degree in your undergraduate, You can probably teach digital technologies as secondary, and also digital technologies can count as your primary curriculum area as well, right? So there's lots of different ways around it. But if you're doing a straight secondary degree, then you will need two areas, and we can usually find something in there, but it will need to be evaluated. Okay, so bear in mind that there are specific specializations for primary and secondary. This is the situational judgment test that Monash has created. Now, if you're applying to other universities, you may have heard of a situational judgment test called Casper. Casper is a paid test. You're very welcome to use it. And you can submit that test. You can put Monash in when you go into that one. You're very welcome to. But Monash has their own version, which is free, and you don't have to book it. And you can do 3 attempts per admissions period, and it doesn't cost you anything. Casper, you have to pay for. If you're only applying to Monash, we strongly suggest you use MTeST because it's free, it's open, it's easier. Okay. If you're applying to other universities and they require Casper, well, then just do Casper. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. It's 15 minutes, it's online, it's open-ended questions. They give you a situation, you suggest how you might deal with that situation, and the responses you give will identify your suitability for teaching. Okay, it all gets worked out in the end. Okay. When you go in to do this, you nominate, you use your application number that you've created. So you do your Monash application, you get your Monash number, and then you do the MTeST, and then it all gets linked together, and that way it all stays together, and it will all work out and be much easier. So do this second. Oh, this is exactly what we're saying. So apply for the course, get your Monash number, take the situational judgment test, and then the offers are on a rolling basis. There's not a single day. It just is on a rolling basis as things proceed. The thing to note that lots of people ask us is that if you are currently completing your bachelor's degree, you will have to wait until your transcripts are finalized and everything in your bachelor's are finalized in order for us to make you an offer. Okay, we can't make you an offer until your bachelor's is fully finalized because they're not official results yet. Okay, so I'm going to stop there for a moment. I'm going to pop this up on the screen. So take a photo of that, take a quick screenshot. I'm going to close this in a moment. I will open it again at the end, but take note of this information now. And then I'm going to open back up. I'm going to invite Jennifer and Patrick from our student recruitment team to jump in. Patrick, I noticed that you'd marked a couple of questions that you wanted to answer live.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I've listed them in order. If you're happy to address the ones that you can or pass them on to the panel, that would be much appreciated. But I can read them out for you too if that's preferred.
Yep.
Suits you.
Yep. Hold on, I've got one here. I'll just start this one. I can go straight to Michelle. This top one. Michelle, there's one about, can we hear a bit more about what a specialist school is and what might be some of the areas they focus on?
Sure. So a specialist school or a special school focus on diverse learner needs. So these are children who can't be in mainstream schools because they have unique learning needs. Specialist schools cater for them. They are age-based. So you might have an age group from, say, 12 to 15 with a small number in each class. So I would add a guess like no more than 10 students in each class. And it's a high level of differentiation. You learn a lot about diverse learner needs and neurodiverse learners. People who have done a specialist placement say after that, they feel like they could teach anywhere. So it's a great launching pad to get some tips, tricks, tools, in under your belt while you're at a placement to see if it's a good fit for you.
Great. Thank you. That's really helpful. I think Patrick was typing, so let me just grab one. Um, there's a question here. A 2-year master's degree is a big commitment. What reassurances can you give we will find safe, healthy workplaces when so many teachers are so frustrated with the state of the profession? So I think first of all, I think the teachers frustrated with that's absolutely part of the reality. I think we have to be a little bit careful that the media love a good story, and we have to remember, don't we, Michelle and Maya, that teaching is a vocation, and that people go into it because they have passion for it and because they love it, and so it's not like turning up for your average office job. But Maya, what would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I agree. On one hand, yes, you do hear those headlines in the media, but also I think it's also important to, yeah, be in a school where you are, provided with those, mentoring and guiding opportunities. I was very fortunate when I came to Wesley, even though I wasn't a graduate teacher. Wesley offers a mentorship and also buddy program where all the new teachers, well, teachers who come to the school, they are buddied up or paired up with with an established teacher from Wesley who can show them the ins and outs of how the school operates. Because yeah, schools are different in terms of their culture, their ethos, etc. So my suggestion for you is perhaps ask yourself where you'd like to work, what type of schools you might like to work, and perhaps do your research, talk to people as well. If you know students that go to the schools or teachers that work at those schools, find out and then sort of form your own judgment. I think that's probably my suggestion. Of course, it's good to find out what's happening, but ask yourself at the end of the day what works for you, and also seek out people as well. I find when you talk to colleagues, sometimes you find that they're also in the same situation, or they're thinking similar things. I mean, teaching is a very team-based profession that we spoke about, but also where there's a lot of support as well. We do have good days and pretty bad days as well. It's nice to be able to find colleagues that you can debrief about what's happened. It's always nice to have helpful ears, and then you tell yourself, okay, I can do it again. I must say, being a teacher after 8 years, I'm definitely more resilient. I'm able to, move on from things whilst also being reflective. So I hope that answers your question. So first of all, ask yourself where you'd like to work and do your research. Ask around, and number two, find supportive colleagues that you can also, share the highs and the lows and how to move on.
Hmm. Michelle, there's another question about teacher burnout and leaving the profession. Did you want to, just to kind of knock this on the head, did you want to add anything to that?
Um, Yeah, I would find the perfect thing about placements is you can find a good fit for you, and then you can loop back and in your final placement, you can self-nominate. So a lot of pre-service teachers will do the 3 placements, and then they might have had a great experience in their first or second and go, right, I want to go back there, or I've heard great things about this, and you do have to know a mentor at the school to self-nominate. But Maya's right, find a good fit for you. And the beauty of being a teacher is you have so many options. And if it's not working for you, you can move to another school. And I promise you, the more schools you're in, the better experience you're getting. Yeah, teacher burnout is a real thing, but you really need to look out after yourself. And a lot of schools are embedding that well-being and looking out for their teachers. It's all about having that group. Your uni buddies will be your collaborative bunch who you lean in on, and you'll have, Friday night catch-ups with, coffees with, and you'll just debrief. And I promise you that teaching is one of those professions where in no other job will you get the buzz that you get. Those moments, and you'll get it, you'll feel it on placement, and you'll be hooked in. And it's a wonderful, Wonderful profession.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, you're talking to those of us who've been in the profession for a long time too. One of the other things I think I'll mention here is that we have something quite unique in our faculty called Education Success Advisors, ESAs. And when you begin in your program, you'll be assigned to one of our Education Success Advisors, and that person will be with you throughout the 2 years of your course. So if you have any questions about accessing support, I need to reduce my load for this semester. I'm having problems managing, or I need to change something. Your ESA, your Education Success Advisor, will be your personal support person through that 2 year program. So while you're getting used to being a teacher and studying, you have that ESA person as well through the program. So we see that as a transitional thing as well. So while you're studying, you have the ESA. You also have our professional practice consultants. You also have your mentor teacher in the school. And then when you go out on placement, you have all of this team around you, as well as your mentor teacher one-on-one in the classroom. So when you get out as a graduate teacher, it's important that you're making informed choices about where you go, as Michelle and Maya have both said. But you have to also make the decision that this is something you want to do. And someone's made the comment, is there such thing as work experience for adults to spend a week in a public high school to see if it's a good fit? I think that's a really smart thing to do. We can't organize that for you, but volunteering in a school is absolutely something you can do. Go and ask if they want help in the library for a lunchtime. Go and see if go to your children's school, go to your grandkids school, go and see if there's an after hours club or a lunchtime club that perhaps you can help with. The public schools that I go into, and I'm in schools every week doing research, the public schools I go to, the teachers' favorite thing to do is spend time with the students. That is why they're in the job. They're not in the job for paperwork. No, none of us are ever in the job for paperwork. But if you can get into a school and experience what it's like to spend time with the students, then it changes kind of the perspective on everything else. So if you're not quite sure if this is the right role for you, absolutely go and volunteer. See if they need someone to help doing something and just go and see what a teacher does and experience that before you think about applying, perhaps. Why not? Matt has asked, the job market for secondary teachers teaching accounting, would it be possible to teach maths with an accounting degree? We'd have to look at your transcript specifically. Sometimes there are, Matt. I did a credit assessment the other week and there were some maths units. If it's not maths, it may be that you have some humanities subjects in there, like economics. So sometimes that's a pathway there. So we'd have to look specifically at that for you. Let's have a look. What else you've got? Do we choose where we take our placement, or is there a chance of significant travel, Michelle?
You can only really choose your final placement. The placement team work tirelessly and try and eliminate travel because they are big days. We do take that into consideration, and they try to get it under an hour of traveling, and that's on public transport. So if you have a car, you're absolutely fine. But they do they map it out and make sure it's viable for you, and you do have the opportunity to say, this is too far for me. You know, we all know you have other commitments, and then we can work out the best fit for you.
Yeah. That's right. There's a whole separate team, separate to Michelle's team, that do work that out, and we have connections with huge numbers of schools across the state, really. Just having a look here. Someone asked the difference between the Master of Teaching and the Master of Education program, and I just want to talk to that one so we're very clear. If you want to become a teacher, you need to take the Master of Teaching program. The Master of Education program is a purely academic course that allows you to engage in coursework around the notion of education. It is not a qualifying degree. It does not allow you to register as a teacher. So the difference is that one is an academic investigation into the notion of education. Master of Teaching is the only degree that has a pathway to teacher registration. So if you want to be in a school and be a teacher, you must take the Master of Teaching. Okay. Can I work second year as education support at primary school. Can I do my placement at my workplace? So I'll get you to answer that one, Michelle.
Sure, you absolutely can. We do encourage you to spread your wings a little. You're already in that school and it's sort of going in via osmosis. But I would, if I were you, I'd try and branch out. You only have 4 placements, so, and you know that you could do some extra volunteer work at that school you're already at if you like. You can absolutely do it though if you like, but there is a big difference between educational support and actually teaching. So you just have to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah, and applying for schools, jobs for schools, the more diverse experience you have, the better, and the more prepared you will feel in your teaching career as well. There is only one intake per year in February. It's a very structured, busy course, as I mentioned, and the units, the subjects that you take are designed to be taken in a certain order, and so they start in February. There was a question about part-time. We don't offer specific part-time pathways, but once you're enrolled, you can decide to underload. That means you might decide to not take the 4 classes per semester. You can decide to underload, and you can work that out with your education success advisor. It's not an official pathway, but you can work that out based on your specific needs. Excuse me. Someone's saying, I'm a bit confused about how the information will be delivered. So this is really interesting because what you will get to understand is that teaching and learning is not about delivery. It's not about passing information from one person to another. This is about cognitive theory, isn't it, Michelle? We're getting into how teaching and learning actually works. So tutorials and workshops are the most common form of learning and teaching experience that you will have. And assessments are, there will be group assessments because, as Maya has said, teaching is a collaborative profession. It is a collaborative experience, and you will do that through written and oral presentations, so in class. Maya, can you remember some of the assessments that you did?
Yes, I do. I remember the assessment of, well, speaking from the language, teaching foreign languages. I remember where we had to, work with students who were studying the same language, and then we had to do like a master class and deliver that, to the entire class of, say, students that weren't learning French, that were, studying other languages. The idea was to make the content as engaging and relatable as possible, so that even if you didn't have any idea of French, you still found the lesson somehow impactful. So yes, that's one, the masterclass, the foreign language masterclass, something that I still remember very well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's a really useful one. Um, Someone's asking about substitute teaching. Michelle.
Sure. What exactly is the question? So CRT,
Um,
we call it?
yeah, CRT, how much notice do you get? What schools is
Oh,
that? Pay rates? I think people are just looking at that as a career pathway.
yeah, great question. And a great chance to go, right, where like you just take it all in for the first few months and you go, I love this school, I want a job here. And 9 times out of 10, they'll snap you right up. You can get, you'll either be, it depends. If you've got a family and commitments, you can ask the AP or the person who organises the casual relief teachers, I need notice, or I can find out on the morning of. And if you're a morning of person, you could get a call at 8 a.m. but you just got to kind of be ready. And it is great. It's a wonderful CRT because you get to experience things that you never would usually experience and a variety of teaching methods. You do need to have a few tips and tricks up your sleeve for behaviour management because we all know that when a sub used to walk in, the eyes would light up. So I do encourage you to be really good at knowing students' names if you can on a whim. That's a powerful tool to have. And the pay rate, I think it varies. At last count, I think it was in the 400 a day at department schools and a bit more at Catholic schools. You can look it up online, it would be more relevant. Of course, you don't get paid on holidays though, so you do need to take all that into consideration. But yeah, a great opportunity to experience the buffet of schools.
Mm. And one thing some of our students enjoy is that if they've come out of their bachelor's degree and gone into their master's program, and they want to perhaps travel or have a bit of flexibility after all that study, they can do CRT or substitute work for a little while, go off and do their travel, do whatever, but still be earning within their area and getting experience. So it gives you some flexibility. Let's have a look. We'll come back to the questions of advice. Is it common for people to do international rural and special ed placement? Is it also possible to find placement in alternative learning schools such as Steiner Montessori?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do it all if you like. But given you've only got 4 placements, I'd encourage you to do like a rural and a specialist or an international and a specialist. If you're doing all 3, it might be a bit much. And you also do have to go through a selection process for the international and the rural programs. But yeah, absolutely. And there are opportunities to work in the alternative education delivery schools as well.
Great. That's helpful. Thank you. She has asked if I do a Master of Teaching Primary Secondary, will it affect my employability after graduation if I want to apply for a secondary role? Well, if you do a Master of Teaching Primary and Secondary, you will be qualified for a secondary role, and you will have only one teaching area. Now, in Victoria, school principals have the discretion to choose what you teach. So in Victoria, that's fine. So when you go into a secondary school in Victoria, the principal will look and will say, "What can you teach?" And you'll say, "Oh, I can teach English." And they'll say, "Okay, well, we need an English teacher, but we also need a PE teacher." And you can say yes or no. "Okay, I'll figure out PE and I'll teach that as well." That's fine. In Victoria, that's how it works. If you go to New South Wales or Tasmania or South Australia, however, you can only teach what is written on your transcript. So that it depends a little bit state by state. So if you're happy to teach in Victoria, then you will be fine. If you want to teach in other states, it's a little bit more complex. The reason for the primary secondary degree is that there are more and more schools, a bit like Maya's school, that have students from ages 4 all the way up to ages 18. That's right, isn't it, Maya?
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Like I found it with IB schools in particular, their middle school starts from year 5 to 9, and then their senior school is from year 10 to 12. So even though I didn't do a Master of Primary Education, they said that's fine. You are able to teach middle school. So there is a lot of flexibility to move around in that space.
Yeah, great. So the primary secondary degree is really attractive for schools that have that kind of have all students from 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds all on one campus, for example, which is when the state department at the moment is looking at building new schools, they generally build those kind of schools. So it gives you that flexibility. So that seems to be working well. So it hasn't affected our students' employability. In the survey we did with our graduating teachers last year, they didn't say it affected their employability. Someone's asked, if you choose maths as my secondary teaching specialization, can you choose maths if you have a Bachelor of Arts and did 2 year 1 and 2 year 2 level math subjects? No, you do have to have some level 3 math subjects in order to have it as a specialization. So that may be a limitation for you there. I may be interested in early intervention work with parents and babies. Will I be able to find work in this area after completing the Master of Teaching? I'm not sure quite what you mean by early intervention work. If you're looking at early intervention work in schools from an education perspective, like in early childhood centres, then that should be fine. But if you're looking at early intervention from a medical perspective, then maybe there's a different master's program that you're looking at, because that may be a health program or maybe a psychology program. But early intervention it depends what you're looking at, really. You may need to go and look at other programs and see if they have more of specifically what you're looking for. Is there room for people with disabilities and chronic illness in the teaching profession, from accommodations with study through to teaching practice? I would say yes. What would be your thoughts on that, Michelle and Maya? People with disabilities and chronic illness.
So I can say with certainty that we have teachers who who say that yes, I have ADHD, and they wear the sunflower lanyard to say yes, I have an invisible illness or hidden disabilities. So my school is very open and receptive, to hiring teachers based on their merit, irrespective of whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical. I have found, from the schools that I have been to, yes, there's definitely more discussion and more openness of hiring teachers who are neurodiverse. So that's been my experience.
Yeah, and I'll second that. We've had pre-service teachers who have been vision impaired, hearing impaired, on the spectrum, and they've managed so well. And I loved their outlook on the way they saw things, because they taught us things, which was wonderful, and they've probably got more of an open mind towards that. Neurodiversity, and you're going to have these children in your classroom. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I would agree. And also it's fabulous for our students in schools to see how we as adults accommodate each other, and look after each other in the world. I think we have to model the way that we want our society to be. And so that's how we should be looking after each other in the world. So absolutely. Monash too prides itself on its caring for students and caring for each other. We have a very strong department that will support people with any accommodations you might need. So you can also access that as well. So please do look into that and let us know what you might need so that we can help you through the program as well. You applied for the Master of Teaching Secondary, 2 years. So if you want the 1.5-year program, it's the Master of Teaching Accelerated program. Patrick, how do they apply for the accelerated program? Is that after they get an offer?
You should be able to apply for it in the portal. Stephen, probably best bet is if you send an email directly back to the admissions team saying, can I please be considered for the 1.5 years? And they might be able to switch your enrollment.
Okay, so email back and say, I want to be considered for the 1.5-year program, and they should be able to switch it over. So email back for that one. Great. There's a question, do teachers spend a lot of time standing, or is teaching becoming more collaborative in small groups? Well, teachers, I don't know if it's a lot of time standing, but it's a lot of moving around. It is a physical job. Depending on the age group too, there's a lot of getting up and getting down, a lot of moving around, and things. But Maya, what's your experience? How was your week so far?
I must, well, look, teaching keeps me very fit in the sense that, yes, I'm standing, but also you're constantly moving around the room. I can't really think of many lessons where I'm just standing in front of the class. I mean, obviously, yes, there is time for the formal instruction where students are, listening to me in front of the class, but then when the students are doing collaborative group work and or individual work, I'm always moving around the room, in the sense that I'm asking them, okay, how you going with the work, checking in on them. So yes, there's constant moving around, irrespective of year levels. I do that with my year 5s to my year 9s. At my old school, I did that with my year 12s. I think moving around just gives you a perspective that, yeah, you see where the students are at, but also it makes the students see, the teacher is approachable because she or he or they are coming to me and wants to find out what's going on. I did find that when I go around the room, they do open up a lot more than if I'm just standing in front of the class.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely an interactive space, isn't it? A classroom these days. It's not a stand up the front and deliver anymore.
That's
Michelle?
right, Joe. And no day is ever the same. So it keeps you on your toes and it keeps your mind stimulated, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, we've managed to almost get to the end. Let's talk a little bit about the Landtite test, which is the literacy and numeracy test for initial teacher education. So that is a test that everyone has to do. You have to try and complete it. We have to complete it by the end of the first year of the course at the moment. That sometimes changes, but at the moment, that's what we're doing. And we do provide a lot of support for that literacy and numeracy test. It is designed to ensure that our teachers have sufficient numeracy and literacy skills to be able to support learners. So whether you're an art teacher, a maths teacher, or a science teacher, you have to have literacy and numeracy skills that are high enough to be able to teach. So the Landtite is administered externally to Monash. It's administered by a separate body, a government funded body. We have a whole team of people who will provide practice tests. There are some online courses you can take that we provide. There's a whole team that will provide some coaching. They don't provide, they don't teach you the skills, but they will say, it looks like you need to rehearse these skills, go and do these things. They will help you plan your study. And so you can go through that. And they have a very, very high success rate in that. In the master's program, we have over 90% of people pass the Landtite the first time they take it in our master's program. So while it can seem a little daunting, if you do the preparation and you do the practice tests, most people are fine. Okay, you do have to bear in mind it is something that has to be on your radar. You do have to do it in the first year, and there are certain points throughout the year that those tests are set. You do them online, and you need to manage that. You need to go and pay for them, set them up, organize yourselves, go and do it. But most people do it. You get 3 attempts, and then we can make a case for the 4th, but like I said, very few people need all of those attempts. You do have to pass them in order to graduate the course, but it's rare that we have those kind of problems, I have to say. So the Landtite test is something that we will work with you on once you get into the program. There are supports, there is help for that. Yeah, so Landtite is something you do once you're in the program, but it is another kind of milestone you need to pass. Someone was disconnected. Is it possible to take the Monash New Oriental Joint English Language Program in China for this course? Patrick, do you know anything about that?
I think
No?
Jen's answered this one.
Oh, that one's already been answered? Okay, great. Lovely. Okay, let's start wrapping up. Maya, what would be your what do you get from teaching, and what would be your recommendations for people thinking about this course?
What do I get from teaching? I get the huge sense of satisfaction of instilling my love of teaching language to students. I get real buzz teaching students every day. Like I do really see teaching as a two-way process. Whilst I'm teaching the students, the students also teach me a lot as well. So having that symbiotic relationship is a real fuel that keeps me going. I highly recommend the course because it really geared me well for for being in the classroom. I learned so much theory and so much so much practical aspect that that geared me well from day one in the classroom. And also, as I mentioned earlier, the amount of support that I got from both the lecturers and the tutors were invaluable, made me feel really confident as I was completing the course and really prepared me for the teaching profession.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maya. Michelle, what do you get out of teaching? And what would
Oh,
you?
you get an immense sense of satisfaction, and you have impact where some days you don't even think you have, but you actually have. So in no other job, I really doubt you would get that and the ripple effect that you run into your students. Oh my gosh, I remember you. I actually went to we ran the Bairnsdale Rural event last year, and a girl came up to me. She was a head taller than me, and this gorgeous woman, and she goes, "You were my prep teacher," and I was like, "Oh my Lord." Anyway, I was like, wow, and she's like, I'll never forget when and she just went off, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I had that impact on your life. And I just wanted to cry. It was so beautiful. But yes, you don't even know what you're doing on a daily basis, but you're having such an impact on humans.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think for me, that's exactly the same. I've been out of schools for 12 years. Like as haven't had my own classroom for 12 years, but I'm in schools doing research every week. But I was in a pharmacy about 8 weeks ago, and a woman came up to me in the aisle and said, "You taught my child when she was in grade 3. She's now teaching in South America, and she mentions you." That's huge, amazing,
It
amazing.
is.
Of
It is.
course, I remember Imogen.
Joyous.
And of
Yeah.
course, I remember her. And of course, I could see her in her mum's face. And I
Yeah.
can remember marking Imogen's writing. And she's like, she loves writing still, and she loves this. And there's just things. And I think the other thing for me is that teaching can take you all over the world.
Yeah.
I've taught in England and France and America. And here, I've taught in bilingual French English classrooms. I've taught adults. I've taught 3-year-olds. I've taught outdoor education. There are so many different options and pathways that education can take you. It can
Mm.
take you into research. This particular master's program doesn't have a research component, so it won't take you into a PhD, but you can go on from this and do a 6-month research component into a PhD if you get the kind of the bug from it. So lots of different things you can do. There are a couple of questions that have just popped up, but I believe they're getting answers right now. Patrick, would you be happy if we just finish up here?
Perfect, Joe. We can send some additional answers and some frequently asked questions in an email that'll go out the next day or two.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Lovely. Well, I think we'll say thank you to everyone for coming along. And thank you very much to Maya for giving up your evening on a school night. Really appreciate your time again and your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michelle, thank you again for coming along and talking all about placements. Always something that people really want to know about. So thank you.
Pleasure.